You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald, and we have Chris Franklin from NJ.com from his home office. Looking good there, Christopher. Appreciate you coming on with us today. Anything embarrassing above and beyond the Eagle performance happened in the MetLife press box this week that you can rat out McMullen or Martin Frank or anybody else for?
Rat out somebody else, Chris.
No, well, the fact that that we exist, we didn't have seats. We didn't have a seat.
We didn't have seats. Guy, talk about mailing it in. The New York Giants mailed it in. My God, they didn't even put up a seating chart. Well, they did have a seating chart, but they thought only the members of the Philadelphia Inquirer were showing up. They thought, I guess they thought 6 Philadelphia writers were showing up. Nobody else had a seat in the press box.
So it was Scramble Nation. Everybody get the best seat you
sit
can.
Wherever you want.
Really?
Wherever you want.
Yeah, I had to sit far. I sat far just to get a new angle, just to see something different. But I was like, wait a minute, like I'm like I scanned in, I'm allowed. Like, what's going on? Like, I thought I was gonna have to start doing it from like up top, like I did it for the one of those college bowls down there in the Boca Raton Bowl. I had to sit outside in the rain one time because I was in an auxiliary press box. I'm like, we're gonna do this again? This is gonna be fun.
Do it from a comfy table in a cafeteria. They got nice TV screens there. You can watch.
Yeah, they're good.
They're nice. There were plenty of seats. That wasn't the issue because a bunch of people, obviously, week 18, they're mailing it in, but they didn't even put the names down on this. There were plenty of seats. That wasn't the issue. The point is they usually, direct you where to sit, and the Giants were like, we're 5-11. Who cares? Who cares?
I just want to belong somewhere, guys. That's all. I just want to know where I'm going to be. I just want to belong somewhere. What the heck?
Well, you sound like you're more concerned than some of the Philadelphia Eagles are, and that's just flat out wrong because they've been putrid for a month and a half now here. Yeah. I get it. I don't want anybody coming out and going, we stink, and this guy's not doing that right, and the coach has no clue. I'm not looking for a crash and burn moment. But are you surprised by the fact that no one has had really anything creatively to say about what the Eagles need to do to get right and get this ship turned around? I'm not predicting a Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination, but it'd be really nice to win a playoff game against Tampa this week. And I've gotten nothing from the coaches, from any of the players on this team as far as potential corrections that this team can make. Am I being overly judgmental?
No, I mean, I'm just waiting for somebody like I've been talking around. Maybe it happened. I don't know. I'm waiting for somebody like maybe throw a speaker or something around just to rattle it up to try to get a spark into this team, because it feels like for his last couple of weeks, it's just like, well, we're in the playoffs. Okay, we'll turn around. We'll just flip the switch and ready. And it's like this weird flat line right now. And I'm waiting for somebody to go like, okay, yeah. I mean, last week we saw practicing. We saw everybody's loose and just having fun, thinking that was going to be the thing. But we saw what happened when they came out that way. So I want to see that.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen, Chris. They're going to play the hits. And I saw BG, Mr. Optimism, obviously, and BG's great, phenomenal guy, but he was just on with Jody's other employer
last night. Yep.
And, he's talking about nobody believes in us, backs against the wall, underdog mentality. Lane Johnson's going to have the hat out. Jason Kelsey's going to have it. Nick's going to wear it. Nobody believes in these Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to go down that route again. They're going to play the hits. Is that enough? Nobody believes in us.
Maybe it works for the rookies because they haven't seen it yet. It's like, you know what? Yeah, this works. But yeah, you can say all that. You gotta actually do it on the field. And can it work for some of the schematically for some of the stuff? Like, can you go, you know what? We're going to stop it so that way nobody's going to be us in between the numbers. Yeah, but you hope you get that in the defensive room or some of the coaches' room or something like that, because that's where I think a lot of it's going to matter. And I think for some of the players, I think it is. They're going to ramp it up just a bit, but so are the Buccaneers because they've been in this situation too. So,
nobody believes in the Buccaneers either. By the way, nobody.
The
Eagles are favored. They're favored. So nobody believes in the Buccaneers. I just thought it was funny. I knew they were going to go down that route. But there's a bunch of there's four guys. BG, Dallas Goedert. Now, after the game, Dallas Goedert said something kind of weird that basically, they were waiting for the playoffs and kind of mailed it in like the Giants press corps, not press corps, but PR staff. They mailed it in down the stretch. Any belief in what Dallas was saying, and they can just turn the switch on. And then you had Chad Ochocinco coming out of nowhere saying, "Oh, the Eagles are playing possum." What is going on? They're playing possum. What? Come on. This is the greatest possum act ever, by the way, if that's what they're doing.
Yeah, if they were winning these last, if they won, if they went 3-3 down the stretch, and then the last two were losses because they're playing vanilla because they didn't want anybody to see what they're really doing, okay, maybe I can believe that. But they've been looking bad when they had a lot of stuff on the line.
Right,
so
yeah.
I can't see them playing a lot. I can't see them playing possum or anything else like that. I mean, I love Club Shay Shay and everything else, but I don't know if there was something else going on, like late '90s kind of delirious for that one. And when Dallas got to say that, I was like, I'm not. I think he made me misworded or something, but yeah, I don't. Nah, you still had, even last week, when you still had the number 2 seed line, even if you pulled them in the second half and then everything went downhill like that way. Okay, I get it. But the fact you came out that flat, the fact that even if it was a quarter, whatever, you still had a chance to still clinch everything, and you still come out and play that performance, that was just bad overall. And when you have stuff on the line like that I just don't see how you can just go, okay, yeah, we can flip a switch the following week because, it's just going to get better. This means more now.
Yeah, somebody's got to tell Dallas quick history lesson, and it's not all that far back in history. The Eagles have gone to 2 of the last 6 Super Bowls, and both times they had all their playoff games at home. So you're playing possum there, big guy, and just waving goodbye to home games? That's not the brightest strategy I've ever heard, Dallas. I'd rethink that one if that was actually the way you were thinking or anybody else on that team did. I did see this morning, Chris, and we're all trying to figure out ways how to get the ship turned around and right and everything else. Power ratings. We spend way too much time during the year with power ratings. Oh, you can power rate playoff teams too. There are 14 of them. And the power rating I saw, I had the Philadelphia Eagles rated 14th. Last. Out of all the teams in the postseason, they actually take into consideration the way they're playing right here, right now. They got the Eagles 14th. 13th, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the 2 worst teams in the playoffs are facing off against each other Monday night. Is that the hope that, the Eagles stink, but so do the Bucs. So why don't we just stink a little less and find a way to win the game? Is that how the Eagles have to come into this one?
According to that, it makes it feel, it does kind of feel, it feels like a playing game for the NCAA tournament, like this field of 60, 65 and 66.
65 and 66.
Everybody's got that now.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
goodness. But
I might steal that, Chris. I'm going to call it a playing game. Yeah.
Go for it. Looking at this, it does feel like, because we were all scoreboard watching Red Zone and everything else, and you're looking at the Bucs offense. I know Baker was hurt, but still, you have pieces, and it's like
not look good. Dave Canales is getting head coaching interviews. Maybe he's not going to be focused. Dave Canales.
Yeah.
He's not going to be focused. Yeah.
Was Monty Osiport involved in that? No, I'm just kidding. That's stuff. But when you look at that, when you look at everything else, I just look at that they can't score. They're having offensive issues themselves. But the thing I see is at least their defense is stopping somebody. And even if it's the Carolina Panthers, as bad as they are, as much as they probably mailed it in, but I just look at that and I'm just like, the Bucs offense might stop, but we've heard the same thing about the Giants. We've heard the same thing about the Cardinals. We saw the same thing about Drew Lock when he's leading the offense, and each time you're like, oh yeah, this is the week that the Eagles defense make a stop. But every time it's like, let's play passive defense, let's play this zone, or let's blitz into an area where this team can pick it up, and then next thing you know, it's like a big gap somewhere else, and it's to me, it does. You can't even look at that. It's to this point now. You got to look at this team differently, and I'd have to agree. I probably was going to put them like 12, but looking at it more and more, thinking about it now, 13, 14, 30 versus 14. Yeah, this is where we're at right now.
13, 4. Wow. Yeah. I'd have to think about that, but I definitely wouldn't put the Eagles last because I think they're better than
Yeah,
Tampa.
they have a better roster. It's just the way they're playing right
yeah.
now. You're just looking like.
So
So you'd flip 14 and 13.
at least I'd have to think about some of the other teams,
Yeah,
but
John.
I'm at least
Eagle
flipping.
fans, thank you, John McMullen, for that.
Yeah, I'm at
They
least flipping that.
appreciate your confidence.
You know what?
They're not 14th, they're 13th.
I shouldn't tease because I got to predict the game. I shouldn't tease where I'm going, but I just tease where I'm going. So,
a
whole bunch of stuff can come down between now and
that's
next
true.
Monday,
That's true. That's true.
And when you look at it too, also the Steelers. If you had to play head to head right now against all these teams, the only two teams I think you probably have a shot, comfortable that you think you at least have a shot, or you can turn things around, are either them and the Steelers. And
yeah, the Steelers. Yeah, I put them ahead of the Steelers as well. So the Eagles are moving up. They're
12th, maybe.
Up.
That's about it. Yeah, it's like
with a bullet. Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah.
The Eagles are rising. I don't know about that.
Well, now one of the issues is I can picture, at least if you want to be positive, if you want to go Brandon Graham, let's play Brandon Graham. So you want to be optimistic. I can picture the Eagles offense turning the switch on because they have good players. Defensively, I can't even picture it, Chris. I can't even picture this team playing well defensively. I've never seen anything like it. They get worse when it comes to communication. I asked Nick about that yesterday. They've gotten worse, usually, even with bad defenses. As the season goes on, you get progressively better when it comes to the communication aspect. They get worse and worse and worse. How do you explain it?
I wonder if something where they're tinkering so much, like they're trying to fix it, and then you think you've done something one way, then you're trying to fix it through practice and try to switch it up to fix these things, and you got so many different tinker stuff that you change and everything else now that it's not flowing right, and then everybody look around like, no, we're supposed to do this, no, we're supposed to do this, well, you're supposed to be able to. I think it's one of those things. It could be one of those things where you're trying too many changes instead of just like basically getting back to your fundamentals and working what works base and then building off of that to the point where I think they're looking like, okay, what's going on, and just run around. And especially offensively, you look like when it comes to the blitzes too, like they've handled these blitzes before, but you don't know what's going on. And even to the point where you're looking for the out route, the hot routes, you're looking for those, you can't find them. It's a weird thing that's going on like right now. I think it's almost one of the things where they're just trying too many things. You want to see them try to change things to get them out of this rut, but there's so many changes going on. They're looking like their head spinning, like, oh, what's going on? It's not working as well as it could be.
Jody, can I follow up real quick?
Go ahead.
Just because one thing you said there, Chris, hot routes. Now, I've been saying about this, and I want to run this by you as well. And I went back and looked, when Phillip Rivers, as we know, Nick loves him as a quarterback, for those who don't know. When he was in Indianapolis, the Colts had some hot routes. They don't have them here. I'm starting to look at the quarterback. I'm starting to look at one and say he's not comfortable with that stuff. And I see when blitzes come and he starts blushing. Is that more on Jalen Hurts? Because he's done it in the past, Nick Sirianni. He's put these hot routes in his offense in the past. They're not here now. Who's to blame for that? The quarterback or the coaching staff?
I think it's three. The quarterback, coaching staff, and something like that. To me, it's always the quarterback, coaching staff, and receiver, because you need them all to be on the same page. You have to have the coaching staff that has those routes installed, and then make sure that they're in the right areas to get rid of the ball in that one. You have to have the quarterback that's on the same page, knows what the coaching staff wants, and knows where to throw the ball to in those areas. And you have to have the receivers to recognize that, you know what, hey, I see somebody, especially if you're in a slot or something like that. Hey, I see somebody coming from the inside. I see an area that's vacated. Make me make sure I go to the right area, so that way when the quarterback throws it, it's not going to the opposite side where there's nothing there. So I think it goes at all levels. I think to me on this offensively, I think coaching staff, quarterback, and receiver, or something like that.
All right, Chris, I'm going to drag you into a debate that John and I have from time to time. And I know I sound like a broken record on this, but I still question how the Eagles practice, what they do with their practices, how they allocate their time and their effort and everything else. And John almost always goes down the road of, yeah, but Jody, they can't. The CBA doesn't allow that. You can't go back to Westchester and think that they're ever. They're not. I get it. It's not happening. John has made the point successfully. He's pounded it into my head. I get it. They can't practice like they used to. But Javon Hargrave came out today and said, yeah, with the 49ers here, we work in practice. With the Eagles, it's chill. And then with them, don't bust it as much. Don't worry, not as much intensity and the like. A star player left the Eagles, is still a star player with the 49ers, now a major rival. And he said, oh, yeah, there's a difference between the practice here in San Francisco and Philadelphia. Does that reverberate at all in the Eagles Hall? Do they hear that at all and go, yeah, maybe we need to think about this either on the coaching staff or the entire organization from top to bottom? Will that make any waves whatsoever that a former star player came out and goes, oh, yeah, piece of cake practice in Philadelphia?
No, I don't think so. I think because as much as we've seen
Damn it.
walking through our facility, so all that sports science stuff that they have, like, or at least in that little corridor we get to walk through every day, like, they have a lot going. They have a lot invested in it, and for the most part, before the season, it worked. I mean, it looked like it was working, and they had the guys refreshing and everything else. So that the one thing I think may change is when we look at training camp next year, maybe we see something a little bit more, maybe a little bit more thud, so you at least get where you get at least some contact where you're not tackling to the ground and all that stuff, so you don't risk the injuries there. I think maybe you see more emphasis on tackling as well too. I think that's something you'll see more in training camp too. But right now, like when they get in the in-season thing, I don't think they're going to change on that. I don't think it's changed. Is that now? Like during the regular season, we don't get to see like all the full practice. I'm not thinking like they're going like, okay, you know what? Okay, yeah, we ran our two series. All right, get the lounge chair, sit back, get a Mai Tai, and go. Okay, yeah, we're fine. Okay, we'll see this matchup zone here. Like, maybe like they're playing like that right now, but nothing like that. But I think overall in training camp,
the number's 13. I think 13 padded practices
it's tough.
Yeah,
He's going to maximize those.
It's not the way it used to be. That's for sure around the NFL. But with Javon, I don't know. I didn't see the whole interview. I don't know if you did, Jody, but I bet you said he'd like Philadelphia better. From his perspective, they don't want to practice, so they're happy with it, the veteran guys. The issue comes with the younger players, and the Eagles have had to lean on some younger players this year, especially defensively, and it hasn't worked out for them. I want to talk about personnel, though, because I think they have the personnel on offense, as I said, to turn it around. I don't know if they're going to, but I think they have the personnel. I don't think they have the personnel on defense to turn it around. Is that on Howie Roseman, or is it just some bad luck, injuries, Nakobe Dean, some of the safety issues, or is it just he made some mistakes?
I think when you look at maybe the linebacker area, maybe like at least to start the season, maybe has a little bit more depth, so you didn't have to rely on getting in probably either through the draft or through the first wave of free agency in March that you had some depth. Granted, I know you had to pay you had to pay the secondary guys and you had to pay some of these free agents to come back, and you thought you'd had that defensive line to still be able to put pressure. So I think the more actually didn't get the pass rush started to put more stress on that back seven. I think that's when you start to look at maybe had a better linebacker on that. I don't fault him for trying to continue to fix it as the season went along, like bringing in Shaq Leonard and trying to get Byard and stuff like that when he had those injuries and had those opportunities to get the guys. I don't fault him for that because it was worth a shot to see. He thought he could get more out of some of these guys as well too. So I think more of the initial wave in the depth on this defensively, just some of the guys that they wound up signing, I think that went a long way because I think that's where you start to see that. I think if you had a lot more initial depth, I think that would have been all right, a little bit better than what they are right now.
Although it pains me to say this because John will attest, I was about as big a Nakobe Dean fan as there were when he became a Philadelphia Eagle. I wanted to take him in the second round, forget about the third. So I was ecstatic when he became a Bird. he didn't do all that much before he got hurt this year. So if you're gonna put it out, he lost Nakobe Dean. So what? Nakobe wasn't playing great when he got hurt. So I'm not buying that or accepting that as an, oh my God, how will we expect to go on without Kobe Dean? What was Kobe Dean doing before he got hurt? I digress. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Kobe comes back and is a Pro Bowl linebacker next year. Please, please, please.
I think it's one of those things where he's missed so much time that you get out that see that thing. You just need a flow. You just need to get used to everything. And every time he starts to get look like okay, one foot's getting the other, he's starting to make some headway. Then he's out because he's hurt. So that's why I think a lot of that is there. Like if you ask me about that for the first couple injuries, I'm like, all right, cool, he that. Now, especially with the plantar fasciitis stuff, and that takes a long time to heal, as we can see and we can attest. And looking at that, I'm really starting to worry. So down to the point now, you got to use.
Yeah.
You look like using one of your second round picks to use it on him. You got a linebacker again.
He's becoming an injury plagued player. All right, let me quickly swing the pendulum completely in the other direction. Quez Watkins didn't do enough last week to make the Eagles believe that he's still a confident wide receiver in the National Football League.
It's a playmaker. He was the Eagles' biggest playmaker last week on Sunday.
He was.
He was.
He really was. Like the deep route or against the sideline he just missed. Like, yeah, I get that. But everything else.
To be fair to Quez, that was a hell of a nice. That was he went up and got that touchdown.
Yeah, he did.
He high pointed the football. Here's my thing with Quez. In all seriousness, I always say, and I've used this analogy with Jody before, to the baseball utility guys. Some guys, if they are only, and I'm going old school because baseball's changed so much, but they would play like once a week, and a lot of guys couldn't, get up and not have those consistent at bats and perform. And there were certain guys who could do it and be really representative and were solid utility players, as they would call them. I think Quez is one of those guys who needs the football to be any kind of success. And when he gets one or two opportunities every now and again, he can't do it. So it's not going to be meaningful here because they have AJ and Devontae. But I think when he goes somewhere else next year, I think he's an NFL player. I think he is.
Do you think he's good enough to be an NFL number 2?
No.
If you're saying he needs action to realize his highest potential, he can't be that fill-in part-time guy. Where is he going to go and be the number 2?
I think he could be a legit number 3 where they get some passes his way and he could be fine. I think he'd be
not behind
a
Smith and a Brown. Okay.
I think like he's Alice Aguilar type where he's not just if he just use them on screens and go routes. If you use them in some areas, I think he can have a type of career like Nelson Aguilar's had. That's where I think he's. Yeah, I think he's all right. Like
there are other teams. The Eagles don't get the ball to the third guy. There are other teams that do. The third guy you'll see all over the league. He's got like 40, 50 receptions, and they get consistent traffic each week. I think he would be better in that kind of role. Not that he'd be great, but I just think he's a legitimate NFL player. I think
he's fourth in this offense because they want to get Dallas Goedert involved. When you hear about the 3, Brown, Smith, and Goddard, and then now he's fourth in this one too. So. Yeah, the volume wise, it's slower. Like, when he goes somewhere, because I can't.
And I don't even know if he will, because he did nothing this year. So I don't think anybody's going to be breaking down his door saying, "Oh, we got to get Quez Watkins to be part of our offense." But if there's injuries and he gets a chance, like he did, it was a meaningless game, but he looked a hell of a lot better when he was getting involved than he does when he's. Sort of an afterthought.
All right, Chris Franklin, I need an end of season regular, hopefully playoffs, things turn around. Evaluation of an Eagle player. Missed 3 games, 59 catches on 83 targets, 592 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's Dallas Goedert. And the coach told us the offense runs through Smith and Brown and Goddard. Goddard is not only third, he's a distant third. Why? I think it's an underachieving year for Dallas Goedert. If you disagree, please do so. If you agree, if you can give me some reasoning as to why Dallas Goedert put up the middling numbers he did all year.
That's my blind spot. 'Cause I'm for the life of me, I'm looking around like the type of routes he's run, the type of like how he's being utilized and everything else. I don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, he's had a couple drops here and there, yeah. But I also look at the way that they use him, like allows reception for on like screens or within like 10 yards and stuff like that in the offense. I think his strength is really getting toward the seams. And when teams start going cover 4, they can't really run that seam route. You have to run those sits and stuff left. They start running cover 3. I think he's a great weapon to have, and this team's not playing it. I wish they would just get him the ball, especially over the middle more. But we know how this team has issues sometimes throwing the ball over the middle. So it's a little bit of coaching, and it's a little bit of him as well too. And those numbers for the type of caliber tight end he is, yeah, they're low. Because I thought, well, to me, going into the season, he was one of the top 5 receivers, and look, those stats he put up aren't top 5 worthy.
Before the season, I said it was put him in any order you want: Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and then it was Dallas Goedert. Now coming out of it, I got to put Laporta ahead of him. I got to put T.J. Hawkinson, who tore his ACL, so who knows where he's going to be. But he was having a great season. Yeah,
you want another one? You could put McBride ahead of him.
Trey McBride. I'm not going that far. Yeah, he's a good player. I like him. I think
if you're ready to run Laporta up there that fast as a rookie, check McBride's numbers.
Laporta though I saw McBride play. McBride's like more of an old school Y-back tight end. I think Dallas is way more athletic. Laporta can do both. Laporta's really good, really good. And so is TJ. Who knows if he'll be healthy? But yeah, he took a little bit of a step back. I think that's fair. He's still a good player. I'm not going to say that about Dallas Goedert. But we'll end it there with you at C. Franklin News. The great Chris Franklin, NJ.com, does a tremendous job covering this team with Brookie, Bob Brookover now helping out with the Eagles. How far are we going to go, Chris? And by the way, when this ends, if it ends this week, who's the scapegoats? Where are we going?
Patricia Desai. Oh, just son, you can go away. Patricia Desai.
You're going to blow out the whole defensive coaching staff?
I could.
Except maybe Tracy Rocker.
I can't take away everybody. I think there's a couple holdovers because Nick knows DK from way back. I think DK stays. I think Tracy stays. Yeah, I think those. If anything, I think those are the guys that do that. And then from there on out, I just get this gut feeling. It's one of the things that I think if they win, and if they win this week, and it's a decent defensive showing, then I think you got Patricia back for another year. And
I hadn't even considered that.
So this is where it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, it's like he gets more of his guys to run his system because he'll have the offseason to implement it. I think it's time for the Fangio thing. That if you can't get the guy whose system's named after, just move on and try to get the
100%. Move on.
No. What's wrong with you guys? The answer just became available yesterday.
Wink Martindale?
Time to wink in Philadelphia. Bring in Wink Martindale. You want to make the fan base happy. Get the most blitz-happy defensive coordinator in the last 20 years in the National Football League. You'll put a smile on every Philadelphia Eagles fan's face by hiring Wink Martindale as the defensive coordinator for next year.
I don't think it goes with Nick's philosophy. You know how they talk about explosive plays? Yeah. Blitz leads to more chances of explosive plays. I think you get a different.
Well, that's
Well, hold on. Will that be the driving force? Nick's philosophy this year, or will the new coaching staff be more determined by the owner and the general manager than the head coach's philosophy?
Well, I think I know the answer to what he was saying, because we hear about when he says a lot of times, well, you can win offensively. We ran the wing tee, we ran the pro style and everything else.
Yeah.
Defensively, I think it's going to be one of those, you know what? I'm open defensively to it as long as we don't give up explosible plays and looking different ways that way.
And then Wink shows up blitzing from the buses first week one, 80-yard touchdown, bang.
Not impossible, guys. Don't discount it.
Never seen it possible.
I'm
Nothing's
not going
ever
to say
impossible.
it's happening, but I think it will at least be considered depending on how the game goes on Monday night. Chris Franklin will get you up next week after the game, one way or the other. Thank you very much for hopping in with us today.
All right, thanks, guys. You have a good one now.
That
Thanks,
is
Doug.
the Franklin man, Chris Franklin, here with us on Birds 365. Just a quick note. Tight ends who compiled more yards than Dallas Goedert this year. George Kittle and Dallas was 588 yards receiving for Dallas. George Kittle, 1,020. Sam Laporta, 860. Travis Kelce. How'd you leave Kelce out of your list earlier?
No, I said Kelce, Kittle, Andrews. Put them in any order you want. That's what I said.
Kelce, Kittle, Andrews. So
Yeah.
Goddard was 4 in
Yes.
your 4. Okay. Hawkinson, 960. Njoku, 882.
Yeah, he's really good. And Joker's really good.
Evan Ingram, 884. Cole Kmet, 678. Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys. And I questioned that. I said, how do they let Schultz walk out that building and not replace him? Well, Jake Ferguson has 692. Dalton Schultz, 593. He's got more than Dallas, too. And Trey McBride, 791. Almost 800 yards receiving. Dallas Goedert didn't get to 600 this year. So as a rookie,
No, but he did miss 3 games. Like, how many of those guys missed 3 games?
I don't
know. So he would have been up in the 700 range, probably. Not crazy numbers, but would have been a little bit better. But he's, that's part of it too, because he missed 5 games the year before. So, I mean, durability is part of it. He plays recklessly. Like I'd like to say at times, he runs hard. He won Kyle Brandt's angry run thing twice this year. So part of it is that he plays so physically. He's susceptible to some injuries. He's still a really good player, but I think it's fair what you said. I think before the season, I had him at number 4. I forgot about Njoku. I'm definitely putting Laporta ahead of him. I'm definitely putting Hawkinson ahead of him. I'm definitely putting Njoku ahead of him. Maybe Evan Ingram, who had a big year, but he's more well-rounded than Evan Ingram's just a receiver in my mind.
same with Kyle Pitts, who also had more yards.
Kyle Pitts, same thing. He's just a receiver. Right. So he's still top 10, but I think he's fallen back a little bit.
Yeah, if I told you he's not in the top 5 before the year started, you probably would argue with me. Of course he's in the top 5.
I definitely would have. I had him at 4. He's definitely not in the top 5 now. I definitely Laporta, Hawkinson, and Njoku. Bang, bang, bang. And those 3 guys at the top are still, and Mark got hurt, but he's still a great player.
Agreed. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.